Kia ora, good evening. The latest guest night survey does not make good reading for South Island accommodation providers. In the month of July, national guest nights fell 1.6%, 0.9% in the North Island and 4.1% in the South Island. Guest nights rose for backpacker accommodation but fell for hotels, motels and holiday parks. The seasonally adjusted figures have recently been more volatile than usual because of an earlier Easter and later school holiday breaks. Next day mail delivery is set to be a thing of the past, with New Zealand Post revising its across-town delivery target. From October, all standard letters will be delivered within 3 working days instead of the next day within the same town. For the previous June year, the company said it delivered 63 million fewer items and mail volumes fell 7.5%. Other proposed service cuts include slashing rural mail delivery in half and replacing post offices with self-service kiosks. Team New Zealand are just one win away from bringing the America's Cup back to Auckland. We asked Southlanders if they thought the Cup was worth all the hype.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glued to the TV every morning, late to work. But hey, it's my job to keep the team informed of what's going on, so it's good fun.
How's your boss about being late to work?
She's pretty good. I just come in and bring the day's report. You know, blow by blow, this is what happened.
So could we see you in Auckland if there was America's Cup there in a few years? To have a wee look?
Well, to have a wee look, it should be there by the end of the week, shouldn't it? The way things are going.
Are you happy for taxpayer dollars to go into a defence?
Yes, it was a good idea at the time, back a few years ago, but I'm not too sure now. We live in different times, don't we?
Do you think it's a good thing we put taxpayers' money into it? Would you support that again?
Yes, I'm an avid watcher.
Are you a yachting fan previous, or is it just called you?
Well, fan of it in Kiwi, so the fact that we're doing well, and I've been really addicted to it now because it's been so exciting.
Could we find you on the Auckland foreshore in a few years if we do win?
How many years is it going to be? About 3?
Well, it could be 3 or 4. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. I would actually, yes.
And you'd be happy that our taxpayer dollars could go into a defence?
Well spent, well spent.
So are you actually following the America's Cup?
No, not really.
You're not too interested in yacht racing?
No, not really.
And heart-stopping moments, the racing's been pretty close.
Yes. When the boat just about tipped, yes.
Would you go to Auckland to see it if it came to New Zealand? Again?
No.
You wouldn't?
No.
Yeah, yes I am, just by radio though, so yeah. No, I haven't been watching it on telly, haven't had a chance.
Too busy with work?
Yeah, but today was my first chance, sat down with a cup of coffee, race postponed.
The new Ronald McDonald Family Room at Southland Hospital is almost complete. We got to take a sneak peek ahead of next month's opening.
It's really sort of 2 parts. There's one part is the day users, so families with children receiving hospital care. They can come in here, they can get some snacks, some space, some peace and quiet, and just have some respite from what's going on in the hospital. The other side, which is probably the really important bit, is the accommodation. So for those families with the greatest need, they'll be offered free accommodation whilst their child's inside the hospital in our bedroom suites.
So how is this funded?
It's funded by our trust. So we are the RMH South Island Trust based in Christchurch. We operate Ronald McDonald House South Island and also now the Ronald McDonald Family Room in Southland Hospital. We have fundraisers in Christchurch, but predominantly our money comes from the community.
So can you give us a walkthrough of what people are going to find when they come in to visit?
Absolutely. The whole concept is that the moment you step into the family room, it feels as though you've left the hospital without physically having to do that. So you enter via a linkway, which is a glass structure, which will have lovely green planting either side. Entering in onto the left, you come into this space, which is a beautiful high-pitched building room with a featured stone fireplace. We've got lovely furniture coming through and a very special kitchen behind me. There'll be volunteers and staff members and, really importantly, other families for people to talk to. The other wing of the building has got 4 guest suites, so those have got ensuite bathrooms. They're really beautiful, we're very proud of them. We've had fantastic support from Myco Plumbing, providing us with fittings, tiled throughout. They're something that I would love to have in my home. So how many families will you be able to house here? We can look after 4 families a night on the accommodation front, but really, I mean, it's a good sized space, so I think we're going to be able to cater for all of the families that are requiring help when their kids are in the hospital. And as far as opening dates go, Emma? Yeah, we're looking at a official opening of around about the 25th of November, and that will be, the funfair. And just preceding that, we'll do some community open days for everyone to come and look, because this is a facility for the community. But we will be opening during October softly. And will Ronald McDonald be here? I haven't asked him yet, but I think that's probably a very, very good idea.
Coming up after the break, more from Invercargill Child and Family Centre psychologist Dr. Kay McKenzie. Welcome back. 120 years ago today, New Zealand became the first self-governing country in the world to give all women the right to vote. This morning at the Kelvin Hotel in Invercargill, dozens of women attended a breakfast to celebrate what's known as Suffrage Day, organised by the National Council of Women. Many women opted to turn back time by dressing in period costume to honour Kate Shepherd, leader of the suffrage movement and founder of the New Zealand National Council of Women. In Britain and the United States, women didn't win the right to vote until after the First World War. Port Chalmers artist and Wallace Award recipient James Robinson makes a habit of occupying interesting spaces to create art, and his current abode is no exception. James is the current Southland William Hodges Fellow and has been staying at the former D Street Maternity Hospital. He says a lot of his work is around the unconscious aspect of being alive today in a globalising world. Currently exhibiting at Eastern Southland Gallery and next year at Southland Museum, James describes himself as a South Pacific mongrel painter who uses stuff from the shed and takes licence of the nuttiness of being an artist and writer. This Friday night he has an open gallery providing a safe place for expression.
I've been in Southland for 6 months, and it's sort of come spring, the spring energy is coming through, and with the full moon and the equinox, I'm having a bit of a party in the messy part of the studio, and that's with a young composition student, a musician really, but he's also experimental, noises, feedback, loops, and so they're not so much songs but as ambient scapes, and we're collaborating, so his sounds and my textures and patterns and things will hopefully overlap in a nice environment. So I'll put some candles up and we'll have a few drinks and I'll tidy the place up and yeah, just a bit of a party in the studio.
The South's most articulate and persuasive speechmakers were vying for top position last night at the Southland Inter-School Speech Contest Finals. 56 Southland schools entered the competition, and event coordinator Laura Russell says it was an honour for the 16 finalists to compete after 4 rounds of oral contest to reach the finals. Last night's grand final at Invercargill's Aurora College was well attended, and speech topics were wide and varied, from Muhammad Ali to more complex political issues. The country kids were the winners on the night, with years 5 and 6 taken out by Marley Knapp of Otautau, and years 7 and 8 was won by Eli Winders of Lochiel. Following on from last night's interview, psychologist Kay McKenzie tonight talks about the repair options following the breakdown of a parent-baby relationship. She says there's a gap in the South around understanding and celebrating the importance of the early relationship between mums and babies.
There's good services around to support the early relationships and the early families. Several of the NGOs are providing services. There's and that's looking at supporting the family in general and parenting in general. And so that would be, say, Aotearoa Social and Health Services, Ngākete, Family Works, Plunkett, Pacific Island Trust lactation consultants. There would be midwives in those first 6 weeks, GPs, of course. If you're talking about really trying to do the repair when things have become quite dislocated, I'm not aware of any publicly funded services around. There's myself in private practice, and apart from that, would be private practice out of Invercargill. For mothers who have severe maternal mental health problems, There is the option of the mother-baby unit in Princess Margaret in Christchurch through the mental health service, but that would only be for a few would fit that criteria, and that is a place where not only is the mother's mental health supported, but the mother-baby relationship is hugely supported, and they are doing specialist attachment interventions and supporting of that relationship. But that's only for a small population of mothers would.
Do you think there is a gap in the market of young parents who perhaps are on their own and don't have family support around, or the community support that they might need, that are perhaps slipping through the gaps, and we don't have anything here that is going to offer live-in support for them during that important time?
I would say there's certainly a gap. What happens is if there's SIF's involvement, there can be the option of Holly House in Christchurch, but that's for all of the South Island. That's for teenage and I think perhaps into the early 20s. So apart from that, it's mainly services in Christchurch that I know of. And it's whether, the live-in part, there are some that want to do that and that need that kind of support. And so you have to go further afield for that. But also there's a gap about just really understanding and celebrating the early relationship and how significant that is for the baby's brain and for their well-being throughout their life. It's the greatest protective factor any child can have, is to have at least one person who tunes into them, really is interested in them, gets them, is attached to them, and endures their relationship with them. And without that, there are a lot of children that don't have that.
And that brings us to a close tonight. Up next in sport, the Stags come back to beat Bay of Plenty and Tauranga. From the news crew, good night.